morning. Welcome to the happenings, where we're going to be talking about what happens whether you like it
Or not.
and that was a pause.
Was it?
Okay. So today's episode, we're going to be talking with Whitley on, what's next, how you get from how you actually write that book, right? So we're going to be going through that. We're going to be, she's going to share some stories with us, and I think it's going to be a great time. But before we get started, you know what's coming, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the question is, would you like to go first or should I?
I'll go first. Get it over
Okay,
with.
well, let me spin the wheel. Unpleasant. It is an unpleasant question for me,
Aren't
which
they
you should make you
all?
happy.
Oh, okay. Would you rather swallow a live goldfish or a dead cockroach?
Goldfish.
I know, exactly. There is no
I,
question about that one. It's like,
yeah,
are you
I'm just
serious? Why do we
thinking
even have to
this.
think?
Well, I will still answer. It would be due to the slimy factor, would be good. It would help the moment go down.
Yes.
And that's all I can do. And even the thought of it, because I have a pill issue, not that I'm addicted, but I have a hard time swallowing pills.
Yes.
So I don't think, I mean, even that just makes me repulsed, not just because of what it is, but the thought of I could choke and die on it. I can't think about that. I can't think about that, Willie. Okay, let's spin for you. Thank you for that really disgusting question.
You're welcome.
All right, you get to choose. Which topic would you like? You
Oh, I
have
wish it.
hours versus potluck, unpleasant, or fantasy.
Well, you did unpleasant, so we'll go across unpleasant.
Okay, you
Mine
wanna
is
go
really
tit for tat.
unpleasant.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. Would you rather have a painful splinter stuck in your thumb forever or feel like you've just hit your funny bone all the time?
Neither.
Yeah, you have to have one.
I'm gonna go funny bone.
You use your hands. Yeah. That is not a fun place to hit on your arm either, because it's not
No.
funny. Now
No.
tell me why you chose funny bone. Well, Whitley, with no further ado, let's get right down to the nuts and bolts.
Okay.
So tell me, because this is something I do not know. Well, I think I know, but I don't know. Is what was the first moment when you realized you wanted to write a book? I mean, because that is not something like it's a pie in the sky thing for some people. They're like, I'll just write a book. But you actually you came to this conclusion somehow and you decided, let me write some books. So tell me how you got there, because I'd like to connect the dots.
Well, actually, I wrote my first book in like the third grade, and one of
Okay.
those manual typewriters. I sat down; it was like a page and a half, and then I realized, where do I go from here? So I don't
Well,
even know
that's
what it
kind of
was
it.
about
That's the theme
or
of our show
whatever. So
today.
that was the first attempt. But how I really got into writing was my daughter was into film. We had a
Right.
small production company and we needed a script. I could not find one that I liked, and so we decided to write it. So that's how I got into script writing. But it was script writing that got me into writing a book because of
Interesting.
marketing, because it was like
Ah,
the money was coming into having an intellectual property behind the movie unless you were already established. So
got you.
that was how the book started.
Makes sense. Okay, so question duo, and I really appreciate that because I do know that what came first for you was scripts, not the egg. So
Mhm.
I get it. Okay. All right.
Right.
Second question. I really like this topic too because I feel like anybody who's ever tried to write, they're like, what happens next? So it's really kind of awesome that third grade or whatever, you're like, what's next? So just in the past to now, it's just come full circle for you.
Right, right.
Okay, so
Exactly.
this is going to be kind of a very heady question.
Mhm.
What advice would you give someone who has the idea, but they do not know where to start?
Okay, this is a multifaceted answer, so get your pencil and pen ready. The first thing, okay, oh yes. The first thing is that you need to write your ideal down. However it is in your head, however, whatever, just write
Okay.
it down. Don't try to do
Okay.
anything with it. Once you've gotten it down, just out of your head, then what you need to do is write what we call a log line. You may have heard something called an elevator pitch or anything like that, but it's literally the first thing you need to do. And the reason being because when you get caught up in your story, you start thinking about all of these aspects, and you've got to have a log line in order to market or shop your book. And so
Okay.
if people do not do their log line before they start writing, they are just lost. It also gives you direction. I'm gonna read a couple of log lines to you, and you tell me what movie this is, just to give you an example of what a log line is.
I love this. Okay, good. Go ahead.
An industrialist creates a theme park of cloned dinosaurs. Only the
Oh,
power
Jurassic Park.
fails, and the loose dinosaurs put everyone in danger, including his grandkids.
Yeah,
You got
Jurassic
Jurassic
Park.
Park.
Yeah.
A second one. A computer hacker discovers the shocking truth. The life he knows is the elaborate deception of an evil cyber intelligence.
Now, this one may be difficult for me because I don't typically love sci-fi, but it feels like The Matrix, kind of.
Yes,
What is it?
The Matrix.
Really? I did not know he was a computer hacker. I've only glazed that movie.
You just
Okay,
know
good.
Nemo, right?
Yeah.
The thing about both of these things, you can see, that's what you want your log line to be. You can see the entire movie in your log line. You don't really want it more than 16 words. If it has to go over 16 words, no more than 30. And while you look at this, wow, that's gave me a lot of information. It's still basically about, both of them are under 20 words. And they are, so you want it short, concise. You want to be able to see a clear picture of what your book is, because there's nothing, this is one of the things that happens for new writers is you go, I'm writing a book, and someone says, what's it about? And you go into this 30-minute spiel. Why do they need to buy your book? Because you just told them the entire story, because you don't have it down to the essence. And you started out with the essence, with your idea and your thought. And so
Oh,
write it down before it gets diluted. That's extremely important. The second
I
thing you
love
want
it.
to do is write a synopsis. And a synopsis is maybe half a page, three-fourths a page, double space. And the synopsis is just like the general big thing of what your
Picture.
movie is. Yeah, big picture. Guess what? It's not etched in stone. It doesn't have to stay. You absolutely can change it as you get into your story and develop it, but not at first. Write your synopsis, set it aside. You have your big picture in your brain. Someone asks you what you write, you give them the log line, you forget about the synopsis, but the synopsis helps you keep straight. The third thing you need is your theme. Now, I picked those two movies. I'm
Okay.
going to give you another one, not the log line, but Terminator. What do those three movies have in common? What's their theme?
So, well, you're looking at industrialism, robots,
Mm-hmm.
uh, your future is kind of uncertain, that kind of thing, and loved ones.
Yes,
Loved
and loved
ones.
one.
So
That's
I don't
very,
know.
very important. That's upping your stakes. The theme for all of those have to do with technology going amok.
Yes.
Now, do you see
Okay.
how the theme is technology gone amok? But are any of these movies the same? I mean,
No,
the
no.
theme of each of these movies is the same, but every move, all of these three movies are totally
Story.
different. So yeah, so don't worry about your theme being generic, because more than likely it's going to be, because the theme, whatever your theme is, more than likely it's been used a bajillion times, because nothing
Okay.
is new. So don't worry about that. But what is your theme? Because your thing is going to keep you focused. So when you start going on your little rabbit trails, if you go back to your theme, you go, does this go with my theme? And if it doesn't, you kick it
Mm,
out. So it really helps you keep focused. So you want to do your theme. And the last thing you
okay.
do before you start writing is your character descriptions. And I'm not talking about what color hair they are and how tall they are. I'm talking about, who are they as people? What are they? Are they shy? Are they outgoing? Are they smart? Do they have, what is it about them that makes them relevant to this story?
Mm.
A lot of stories, people get a little annoyed with the characters because they feel like a character is thrown in and he has no reason. Your characters need to have a reason to exist in this story and to push the story forward.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have key one, your protagonist. Your antagonist is just someone who is keeping your protagonist from reaching their goal or their dream or their whatever. And in a rom-com, it's the other party. So
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be a bad person, it doesn't have to be a villain, it doesn't have to be anything. So you've got, those are the two most important people. So you make sure you have all of those together. And then who do you need to come in order to push your antagonist forward? How are they going to get? So you
Mm.
think about who's going to help him get over the line, who's going to help the antagonist get over the line, and you get who these people are and their characteristics down. And then if it's a book, you're going to have to describe them. So then you go, what do I want this person to look like? And to me, I feel like you need to make them real, because everybody is not gorgeous and everybody is not athletic. Everybody is not this way.
Everybody's not a
Yeah,
romance novel.
why in the world does your character have to be muscle bound? If he needs to be muscle bound, make him muscle bound. Do not make him a weakling having to do strength training. Okay? No.
Right, right, right.
Whatever your antagonist needs to be in order to fulfill his mission is what he needs to be. So do not make him the opposite. And then you decide, books, you need to paint a picture of your character by their looks, by their hair color, their eye color, all of those things.
Got it.
But that's secondary. That is not important to writing your story and your idea. That is just because
Mhm.
readers want to know. So those are the things. So it's not just one little thing, but those four things are what you need to do before you start writing chapter one.
That was so good. Okay, that was good. I mean, there's so much more I want to go into, so we'll maybe have to do another one so I don't rabbit trail because that
Right.
I have so many questions. But anyway, let's go first to my next question.
Uh-huh.
Did you or do you outline first, or do you just start writing? And is your process when you begin? Because the caveat question at the end of it is that is there more ways to do this than just the way you're going to say? I mean, is it customized to the writer?
The last part is really true, because I started out as a screenwriter. Screenwriting, you
Yes.
have
You think.
to outline because you're limited by time and everything has
Okay.
to flow. I mean, it's back from the
Hmm.
Greek writers and the Greek playwrights. Everything has to flow
Right.
or it feels unsettling. But a script is an excellent outline. So you have a script
Right.
and you're starting from that. You start with an outline. But outlining isn't what people think it is. Outlining is not what you did when you were in school and your teacher said, outline this paper. Outline is, in fact, a lot of people who don't like to outline, I say use bullet points. And what bullet
Right.
points you need is what's the world your antagonist is coming in? Bullet point. What causes your antagonist to start on this journey? What's his call to action? What are the things that stop him from doing it? What is the midpoint, which is where everything, you've got a whole bunch in between that. But if you know where you're going, then it's easier to get there. There are they say there's two kinds of writers. There are outliners and there are pantsers. And I've discovered I am really kind of a hybrid in that, because I had to start out outlining, I naturally go to outlining before I start writing, or the bullet points, as I was saying. But then getting from the bullet points, I'm a pantser. And a pantser means somebody who writes by the seat of their pants. And a true
Hmm.
100%
Yes.
pantser
Yeah.
is someone who gets an image in their head or a scene in their head, portion of their book in their head, they write it. It may go in the middle, the beginning, the end, the wherever. So they've got a whole bunch of these little snippets of their story, but it has to go in correct order. So they have to have an outline to know where to plug that in. And if you are a pantser, there's a wonderful book out there, Storytelling for Pantsers by Annalisa Parent, because she is a
Mm,
pantser. It is the only book I know that's out there about how to write if you're a pantser. I personally have never written it because I'm an outliner, but I do know dozens of pantsers who say that book actually changed their life. And they didn't know how they were going to get their book
yeah.
finished until they read that book. So if you are a pantser, don't worry about the outlining part. And if you really are having trouble, like if you can't seem to organize all your thoughts and get them in the right order, try reading
Mhm.
Annalisa's book and see if that doesn't help show you how to get it, how to put it all together.
I feel that I'm probably a pantser.
You
I
are a
have a
pantser.
feeling
You
that
are a pantser.
we have we have worked on a couple scripts together, and you have been invaluable to me, helping me formulate how to put this all together because I think that's just how I go. So it is. I will have to check that out because that is an avenue I hadn't thought about. I love that. Okay, now, but you are for that. If maybe there's other ways people go about it, it's all about
Yeah.
how we got there, not necessarily. As long as you're doing some of the top things, the log line synopsis,
As
how
long
you
as you
get there
know
is how
where
you
you're
got
going.
there. Well, what if they have a book they've completely written on notebook paper and it
Uh huh.
fills a notebook? Because let's say they don't have the education or the training. I
Uh huh.
think this would be a me question. Not to me, but for me. But just imagine that this person has written this book. They've got this great idea. It just fills this notebook. What would they do at that point? Would they go to finding their log line, working kind of backwards? After they've got it all, then they just got to kind of cut it up and put it in outline form and
Yeah,
do the
it's a little
checklist of
bit
does this make sense?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, especially like with your log line. You have to step away from your whole story and you may even have to start at that point from what is my theme? What am I trying to get
Mhm.
across? Who is my antagonist? What is my antagonist going to face? What is the shock for my antagonist? What's going to put it like for the grandfather in Jurassic Park? It was all of a sudden he put his grandkids in danger. And his experiment just, I mean, everything he's worked for is just gone and destroyed. And not only that, he put his grandkids in danger.
Right.
For
This
Matrix
quest.
is like, and you notice about the he's going through this journey trying to figure things out, and then he finds out that he's not really living in reality. So you need to think about what your big thing is, and it may not come at first because that's why I said do your log line first. Is because if you've already written it, you have to just
Mhm.
sit. What interests me about this? What am I going to get someone interested in? In fact, you can go, hey, what about this story where this man makes this thing where he clones dinosaurs and does a theme park? And you ask that to a few people and they go, oh, that's kind of interesting. Then you go, okay, that's an interesting
Mhm.
part of my story. But you've got to get it where you're not doing the rabbit trails. Then if you've done that, you need to outline it. And there's so many different methods out there. There's the one where you have 8 turning points. There's one where you have 16 turning points. There's just a lot of different ways people go about it, but you need to have a
Okay.
beginning, middle, and end. And that's what you do is like you look at this page is I'm going to call it a scene for lack of a better word, but if a page is a scene or a complete thought, where does this go in my book? If it's in a notebook, you may need to tear every one of those pages out and arrange them in what order you think the book
Like
needs
a
to go.
picture.
And then you kind of look over it. It's really hard to read it like that, but look over it, skim it, and then you go, no, this would go better here. And you just have to tear it apart and reform it because normally if you're writing it in a notebook you're a pantser and you're just whenever you got a thought in your brain you wrote it down, so you need to try to put it in order.
Okay. Now, I do have a question, but I think I know the answer to this one. But what was the biggest mind shift mindset shift when you started writing seriously versus I'm a hobbyist, I need something for this little thing we're doing? What was something that changed for you in your mindset when you started writing?
Just the decision to commit to it. Like I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
And
I was going to add to that. I know that you probably work on your writing every week. So it's not just something that you put off to the side, but if it's a project you're working on,
it's
you're
every
pretty
day.
dedicated to that. And I
It's a
think that's
job.
kind
I
of
look
what
at it.
a passion means.
Mhm. I look
Yes.
at it as a
I
job,
mean,
and that's how I treat
all
it.
right. Well, that's probably the best because that's how we get good books. Okay, so the next part, we're going to go into your process.
Okay.
What is a typical writing day or week? What does that look like for you? And I
Uh,
realize it's for you and not everybody, but what does yours look like?
right. If I'm working on a project and if I'm working with another writer, depending on that writer too, you have to work it out to
Yeah.
where you can work together. But um I usually get up, get ready for the day, and then I go to my writing spot. And writing spots can change. Whatever I'm feeling like that day. You can write inside, outside, whatever. If your family's driving you crazy, you can go to Starbucks, whatever it is. And then I sit down and write. And a lot of times my co-writers get a little annoyed because I can go 8 to 10 hours. And they go, I gotta have a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I sit down and just write and just keep writing. So I
I
do
love
look
it.
at it like a day.
All right. Next
Uh,
one.
mhm.
How do you handle self doubt or a writer's block? What do you do when you are stuck or you're feeling not necessarily sure about what's going on?
Go to the next project. And the reason is
Oh,
this. Sometimes you're not exactly sure, especially if you're trying to put things together. And you're putting things together, you go, the character has to get from point A to point B, and I'm not sure how they're
mhm.
going to do this. And you think about it for a minute. One of the things we were taught in screenwriting classes were you write the first top 10 things that come to your mind and then you toss them because they're probably terrible. It helps you get out of your mind too. It gets all the initial
Yeah.
thoughts, and most of them are going to be cliche. You've seen them somewhere, you've whatever, so you know what you
Yeah.
don't want to do. Now, if something doesn't come to you after you brainstormed like that, every writer has their different thing. For me, it is like a nap or some kind of meditation, maybe stretching. I had a co writer who would run. So if we were writing something and we would brainstorm or pitch back and forth and we were going, none of this works, none of it works. We just don't know where we're going. I would take a shower or just stretch and relax or take a nap and he would go running. And if an
Okay.
idea hit us, then we would call the other person and go, "What about this?" And if it didn't work, we kept on doing our things. The point is, you don't worry about it. You just walk away because when you're
I like it.
relaxed, it'll work it. Now, if you're
Yes.
working by yourself and you just can't get it and you relax for a little while and it's not coming and you know not your 10 things are at the top of your head, you put it aside and you pick up something else because what is wrong a screenwriter cannot afford writer's block, and we all had to learn how not to block anything, because if you're a writer on set and the director and the producer or whatever or the actor want to change something, you've got to pitch scenarios really fast, so you can't have writer's block.
Mhm.
So a lot of that was trained out of me. So it's in ways is a difficult question. But the first thing I do is go to a second project. A lot of people think that a writer works on one project at a time, and that's not true.
Yeah. Right.
Writers have 3 and 4 projects going at one time. The one they're working on is normally the one there's either a deadline for, or somebody needs it, or you're working for somebody else. You're editing, you're doing something for somebody else, or you're ghost writing. So there's times. So that's the one you're working on. But you got personal projects sitting on the shelf waiting for you to have writer's block so you can start working on them. So have
So, did you share your work while you're writing, or do you keep it private till finished?
it really depends on the project. Of course, if you're writing with someone, you're
Mhm.
actually going to be sharing it constantly. In fact, sometimes when you're writing with someone, we will split up. Like we will decide what's going to happen and we'll decide what the scene's going to be. And you go, you take that one, I'll take this one. And then we
I love
write
it.
them and then we swap and then we figure out if they can work together or we need to switch it a little bit.
Make sure they're cohesive.
Yes, exactly. There's a subject matter expert. If you have a subject matter expert that you're working with, you absolutely want to share the scenes you write that involve that, whatever it is. And you want them to read it because if they say this will not work or we need to tweak this a little bit different, it's going to affect the rest of your script on the way down.
But that's on the scripts. On this one, we're just going to
On a book
focus on book.
But on a book too, it's the
Okay.
same thing. Yeah, on a book, if you have a subject matter expert, then you want them to read it, the section, and make sure it works. You don't want to ask people to read things too much, simply because if they have read it as much as you have, they're not good as far as critique is concerned because they're as familiar with it as you are, and then that doesn't work. So you
Right.
want so after it's finished, you've got to have someone brand new to read it.
And the next thing is, what tools do you use to stay organized?
I don't, but I know a
Okay.
lot of writers who I can't think of any of the programs right now, but they use all the programs. They think they're wonderful and great and they share them and I try them and they don't work with my
But it doesn't
brain.
work.
So it's like I think about how do you stay organized in your daily life and then
Mhm.
go from there. And if you can find a program. I mean, there's bajillion of them I know because everybody's showing me a new program all the time that they're doing. If you go and you find one that it fits your style, great, fantastic. But
Well,
I am like the notebook person or the person who just has it on the
yeah.
computer. I do not use any special tools whatsoever.
Now, let me just ask you on that question. Let's say they want to see if they can, because in the photography world,
Uh huh.
we have different programs that help you with billing clients and all that good stuff. But if they want to find a program for being organized or motivated, etc., how would they find that?
I would say they would just probably need to Google organizing your novel writing.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. All right, now to conclude the process up, this question is: did you ever want to quit, or what kept you going when it got hard?
Once I got started, I discovered I really enjoy it.
Okay.
And I've never thought about like quitting. I have had periods when I slowed down and walked away from it for a month.
Yeah.
Some people say if you're going to be a writer, you have to write every day. That isn't always true. You need breaks. You don't have to write every day, but and taking a break a lot of times keeps things fresh. So
Hmm.
just what is hard? The writing part of it isn't hard. The hard part is querying and trying to market and push your product out and get someone else to move it along in the process.
Hmm.
Is the hard part. If you're a writer, you will write, even if it doesn't go anywhere but on your shelf.
What's next after the manuscript? So once you got your book is that once your book is done,
Yes.
how did you decide on the publishing path? Did you go the traditional way? Did you self-publish? Use a hybrid? Like, how did you decide how you wanted to make this book a reality?
I went the traditional route simply because of the reason I was writing the book in the first place was I was writing it as promotional material for a script that had been optioned. And so I wanted to go the traditional because it meant, I would have someone offering greater exposure and that sort of thing. But I know a lot of people who have self-published. It's got reaching a point where whether it's traditional or self publishing, you're going to have to do a lot of your marketing yourself. And in order to get it out there, self publishing, you're just about doing all the work yourself or you're paying someone to put your book together. So,
Okay.
and traditional, it's really very difficult to break into the traditional market.
Okay. Did you have, and this may need to be another
Uh-huh.
Another for sure. But briefly,
Uh-huh.
without going into an entire like lifetime, was there anything that surprised you about the publishing process?
Not really surprised me. It's just like every style of writing is totally different, and every style of producing your baby or publishing your baby out there is totally different. The process in the film industry is totally different from the process in the publishing industry, which is different than journalism. So
Gotcha.
everyone has their different. So I knew that going in. I just, what is the process? You need to learn the process and don't make
Yes.
any assumptions whatsoever. And one of the things that has made things like difficult over the last couple of years is because in every avenue of getting your work out there, the process has changed. Film has changed. Publishing has changed. They've all changed. And so you have to know what is happening and what to do now. If I said something and it was true today, next year it may not be true. So you have to do the work when you want to go out there and find out what people are looking for and that sort of thing.
I love it. Okay, so how did you approach marketing and getting your book into the reader's hands? Now, if you did traditional, that means that you probably they did that part, or did you have to do that part?
Even if you're doing traditional, you still have to do some marketing. They want
Uh,
you to be on social media, which is one I do not understand because my favorite authors, I could care less what social media they are. I love them for the books they write, not anything else. But you
their
have to.
Instagram presence.
Yes, they want you on social media. There are book signings which you can set up with local bookstores, especially if you're like self-publishing. I know we have one in town and he will place your book in his bookstore. He'll do a book signing for you. Of course, it's all local, but there are these places, all over. There are libraries which will let you do talks. They have authors come in and do talks certain times. And so you just let your librarians know that you want to do that. One of my books was such that it would do well for a group of kids that were, how they do fundraisers, and they could use the book as a fundraiser. It was also, there were amusement, arcade, that's what it was. There were arcade tickets for it because it was preteen, not a preteen, but a young teen book. And so they could sell it and then, with the arcade ticket. So it was the book, the arcade
Uh-huh.
ticket, and then the day that the arcade had designated for this, then did a book signing. So
Oh, that
there's
sounds like fun.
so yeah, it depends on your book. You need to you if you wrote a book, you have to be somewhat creative, and so that's what you need to do. You need to be creative. You need to run things by your publisher, your agent. Your agent, if you're traditionally publishing and you have an agent, your publisher will help you with these things. But I saw an opportunity in what was going on with a group and came up with this. The group loved it, and so it was something that just was off the cuff. Again, it was local because I knew about what was going on locally. um, but yeah, publishers are not as involved in marketing as they used to be.
Yes. All right, so the next one. What would you do differently if you were just starting today? Is there anything you would have changed?
I don't know that there's anything I could have changed because every time I hit something I didn't know or understand, I learned about it. So I feel
Okay.
like it was a process, and there's so much about this industry that you can't get it in one little thing. So I went through the process, and I really think that you just have to do the work to go through the process. There
Okay.
are no
All right.
shortcuts.
So let's talk projects. What's next for you? Or what's next for someone who wants to be where you are? Like, what is the next step for someone listening?
Well, right now I'm ghostwriting, so that's the present job for me. as Jessica knows, I just finished a script and it is out there. And what I want after I finish my ghostwriting project, the next thing what I want to do is I want Jessica to send me her stuff so I can organize it into a script. Calling
Guys,
you
are not a
out right
secret.
now.
Right. No, it's okay. I will take that. So what you may not know about me is that well, there's so much you don't know about me because I haven't exactly told you everything there is to know about me. But aside from being a mom, a photographer, and a DIY person who absolutely adores Dr. Pepper to the ends of her life, I did teach a acting class for a homeschool group. And one of the things I did was write scripts. Well, I was just thinking, you know what? What if I could write a fun Christmas movie? And so that is what Whitley is waiting on. I have got a lot of it done, but it took the back burner to all the projects I've been recording to show you because I'm a cancer with an ADHD problem of getting things done. So my
Yes.
goal this year, when I share my goals this year are finishing because if you came in my house, first of all, you probably tell my husband he is a saint and he's probably needing to be serving for the Lord just to be married to someone like me because I have 50 projects typically going at the same time. Like he'll come in and there's things that are different and you'll live in that different for a long time because while things are different there, I suddenly had a bright idea out there. As a matter of fact, I was going to say Whitley, we have to make me promise the next time I start a project that I will accept the fact, it's almost like an Alcoholics Anonymous thing, where I have to accept the parts of me that I cannot change, and that anything I want to do has 7,000 steps. As a matter of fact, if you give a pig a pancake had an inspiration, it was me, because it's never done at all the way you thought it was going to go. So, but yes, I will get that to you. All right. So, to wrap up, did you have someplace you'd like to direct them for some good books to read that you'd recommend?
There are two books that just about every writer needs to read, and
Okay.
it's Joseph Campbell. Now, I will tell you right now, it is an intellectual book. Joseph Campbell is not for the light of heart,
I am the light of heart, so I will not be reading Joseph Campbell. Go ahead. Go ahead.
but it talks about story, and it goes along the Odyssey, and it tells you how the Greek writers put together a story, because we have not changed storytelling since ancient times. People want to believe we have. We absolutely have not. And it gives you
Okay.
a good thing. Is also, this is a screenwriting book, but it's called Save the Cat. But
Oh,
I think that it's good because it lets you know about putting tension and everything within your work, which you need to do in everything. And it's different when you're writing a book to put the tension in, but you have to understand what tension is before you can figure out
right.
how to write it. One of the things I did besides taking classes and doing all of that is I did have writing coaches.
Right.
Now, writing coaches, you really need to be serious because they are very expensive, but they're very worth it because you get that one-on-one from someone who knows what they're doing. But
Mhm.
if you do have a writing coach who knows what they're doing and have been there and can guide you and know how to guide your particular way of writing,
Right.
then yeah, you're going to pay a little bit of money for that expertise.
You're investing in
Exactly.
what your passion is, and that doesn't necessarily hurt to do if you're wanting to better yourself, unless you're just a savant.
Um, like getting a postgraduate degree. And I just had a friend who just finished her PhD, and she told me her whopping student loan charges, and it was cheaper for me to hire a writing coach for a
Right.
couple of years than the couple of
Yes.
years she spent working on her PhD.
Well, wow.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so, and quite honestly, I feel like what I got, because actually a lot of writing coaches are college professors. In fact, both of mine were, that
Right.
you're paying them directly, but you're getting that quality education and it's 101 instead of being part of a group.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Whitley, for letting us dive into more writing because I think it's fascinating. And when we were talking about content, I really felt like this would be very good for someone who might be stuck. So you
Yes.
definitely gave us some good pathways to go down to writing books. And I will, of course, be working on that book I'm writing.
And if you are, yeah, if you are stuck, put it aside and start a new project. Hey, Jessica
You know
or
what?
DIY.
I have been doing that. Okay, so thank you so much. And now, if you like what we're doing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below on what you think of all this. And I'm sure Whitley would love to answer any questions you
I
might have.
definitely.
Also, I want to tease our next episode, which is super important. We're going to be talking to a lady who works with elderly, and we're going to be talking about caring for them when you can. So I cannot wait to talk with her and just kind of see what all this is about. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to message us or comment down below and we'll make sure to ask her. But anyway, looking forward to it. Thank you so much for coming and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.